The internet is a scary place, and those who have grown up on it have seen some terrifying stuff over the years. So when you combine some of the darkest places on the internet with the most sociable form of gaming, you end up with some of the most creepy and disturbing MMOs ever created. That's right, in today's video I want to take a look at some of the most concerning, massively multiplayer online games to have ever existed and which are still playable in some capacity today. So, if you enjoy hearing about MMOs that no one ever plays or have heard of, then maybe you'll also enjoy my YouTube channel, where I go out my way to play dead and unpopular titles, which I then do video essays for, which nobody...
He actually does a very, very good job as a VTuber. I still think that if he really wants to hit that 100k sub mark, he needs to get some big, gigantic tits on this dog, but, you know, to each their own.
Like and subscribe? So the intro out the way, and a quick warning to say you might be shocked at what you see. Let's begin with one of the lighter and less disturbing games that I'll be playing in today's video. So the first game to kick off the list is The Endless Forest, which I would describe as a social MMO released back in 2005. I was able to download the game directly from the Endless Forest website, which by itself could be considered disturbing simply because of the layout and the colour scheme. Thankfully, my PC had high enough specs to actually download this game. Also, to anyone interested, I'll have an article on my website with instructions and links to all the games that will be mentioned today. Anyway, enough shameless plugs. After a quick install, I loaded up the Endless Forest, which starts with a cinematic sort of title opening. The premises of the game is pretty simple. It's a social MMO where you are a deer in a forest and surrounded by other deers within the forest, and oh yeah, there's no text chat. But what good is a MMO if you're not connected to the internet? Which was my first mistake. A trend throughout this video is that to actually get some of these games to work, I had to disable my antivirus. I put this down to the game being old as opposed to malicious, although if in the next couple of days my PC starts acting funny, I'll most likely look back at this video and say, yeah, that was the root cause right there. Anyway, I'd installed Direct Play, I'd allowed this through my firewall, and I was ready to go back into the Endless Forest. And to my surprise, there were 52 other people playing this game. 52! That's a lot. That's more than New World. The game starts with you waking up from a long sleep, I guess, and you discover that something weird has happened to your face.
It looks like grandma, the fucking thing. Hey, get the fuck out of here. I don't even know if that's a fucking cat.
Yes, truly disturbing, I know. But not only that, you do have a bunch of actions at the bottom of your screen, which also expands when you reach something which is interactable. And that big yellow thing around me? I haven't got a clue what that is. That could be some satanic symbol for all I know. I then went exploring for a bit when I think I bumped into another player. This deer looked more grown up than mine and without the weird face. I then proceeded to push all the actions at the bottom of my screen, and honestly they didn't seem to respond to anything I was doing, so I just assumed they were AFK. Either that or they died at their keyboard. I don't know, I'm just trying to make this game seem more disturbing than it actually is. As luck would have it, I then ran into two other deers, who also seemed to be AFK, and then I started to question that player count. I was slowly losing hope for this game. I'd hoped to find some underground cult community, but instead it was just AFK players. And that was until I met someone else. I couldn't believe my little beady deer eyes. Someone else was playing the game. What transpired next for the next couple of minutes was me simply pushing all the buttons, hoping something interesting would happen. Apparently that scared them off and was the wrong move. Note for next time, I guess. I carried on exploring and came across more and more haunting deer-like figures. I used the radar on the outside of the screen to find some landmarks, hoping to find people or a player hub, but I was just met with more loneliness. It felt more like a haunted forest as opposed to a endless one. I came here expecting some sort of quirky social MMO, but what I got oh look, it's my friend from earlier. At least I think it is. I can't be sure because there are no name tags in this game, which just adds to the fun. I then proceeded to follow them, and they took me to some sort of well sort of thing. We ended up frolicking around for a bit when the strangest, most disturbing thing happened. We were joined by a third player. Like, honestly, what are the chances that there'd be 3 of us playing this game this late at night? It's just random, right? We then found out if you drink the water, you turn into a frog. So guess what we did? We all drank the water. Of course we did. Although for some reason, Steve here, yes, I named him Steve, turned into a squirrel. I just want to point out for the next 30 seconds, the music that plays is actually in-game music. Truly fucking disturbing. Apparently, this was a real bonding moment for me, Steve, and I'm going to call him Kevin here. And we just proceeded to do the dance of my people. So how disturbing is this game? Well, let's rate it. The player models are definitely from someone with a disturbed mind, because that stuff haunts me still to this day. In terms of the music, I felt like it had a good ambience around it, bit haunting, some might say. The premises of the game is somewhat disturbing. I mean, imagine talking to other players online. I think there's a high chance some evil cult does their bidding from this game, you know, by doing deer signals and stuff. And the player base, well, you gotta be batshit crazy to play this. Overall, I'd say it's pretty tame, 1 out of 5 in terms of being disturbed by this game. I promise you, the next one will be a lot more disturbing.
I don't play World of Warcraft.
Butters, you said you're on your computer all the time.
Yeah, but I'm playing Hello Kitty Island Adventure.
Welcome to Hello Kitty's massively multiplayer online game.
A lot of you might be wondering, how the hell did Hello Kitty Online make the list? Well, there is a story to it. It was originally released back in 2009 and was a free-to-play MMO where you helped Hello Kitty do Hello Kitty stuff. Fun fact, did you know Hello Kitty isn't actually a cat? Weird, huh? In 2012, the game started to decline when it unofficially stopped being supported, and naturally, the player popularity also started to plummet. Download links to the game were also removed from the official website, and then in 2017, the servers were closed down. It would then be another couple of years before an official declaration that the actual developers behind Hello Kitty Online had officially shut down. And it actually took me a while to hunt down a working version of Hello Kitty Online, which is hosted on a private server. So of course, I went and played this disturbing Hello Kitty utopia full of cowy kitty stuff. But anyway, through the power of private servers, I managed to create an account, log on, and get to see the character select menu. It was pretty simple in design, there wasn't too much to brag about, but there is one thing I do find quite disturbing, and that was selecting your blood type. Why on earth was a game aimed at teenagers asking for their blood type, even though the game is supposed to be wholesome and fun? Hold up, there's a perfectly good explanation for this. For starters, in Japanese culture, sometimes your blood type can help determine your personality. When it comes to the games industry, the Japanese do not push boundaries, okay? Except for when they just push past the boundaries. Perhaps a video for another day. But listen, I made my character and I was ready to start my adventure. You can really tell who this game is aimed at, and I'm pretty confident I'm not the intended audience. But we'll get to that in a second. The game starts off by teaching you the basics of questing. It also teaches you the basics of your inventory. There are even materials for you to harvest and craft with, so it does have that all-round MMO feel about it. It's a very harmless MMO, and there's nothing really predatory about it, apart from the actual predators who played it. I'll be honest, I'm not a Hello Kitty fan, so I don't really know the lore, but I'm pretty sure it's not aimed at anyone above the age of 20. I mean, just look at this minigame that I'm playing. It's not exactly Elden Ring, is it? And this is when it takes a turn for the worse, because what if I was to tell you the game was targeted by hackers, which resulted in 3.3 million user accounts being leaked. Personal details such as first name, last name, age, gender, country of origin, email address, and even their forgotten password were all leaked. But don't panic, the credit card details were safe and they weren't leaked. This information was freely available for a month, which in internet terms means it's probably out there forever. It's not exactly a new concept, a MMO aimed at kids. There have been plenty over the years. However, to my knowledge, they haven't been hacked and had all their player details leaked to the dark web. So how disturbing is Hello Kitty Online? I think as a game, it's perfectly fine. But the fact that they had such a big data breach, it really does make me question how much they actually protected the players who actually played the game. So it's probably a good thing the game got shut down, but let's be honest, it's still quite disturbing.
Y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife.
Oh, and apparently Hello Kitty is demonic and used to spread satanic messages or something. So I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5 on the Disturbed score, simply because it seems like a game that Dr. Disrespect might send you whispers on. And yeah, that's downright creepy and disturbing.
Stop! Don't touch me there! This is my no-no square!
Worlds.com was the first internet-based virtual chat. It was created back in 1995 and allowed players from all around the globe to interact with one another across the web. It's safe to say that VR chat has evolved over the years. Worlds.com still remains one of the most notorious VR chats out there, and it's for several good reasons. There have been rumours of online cults, general creepiness, and some truly bizarre player-created worlds that you can go and visit. Sadly though, at the time of making this video, I have some bad news. When I went to play Worlds.com, there was a slight issue with connecting to the servers. I did all my usual troubleshooting steps, but I was still unable to connect. So I went to the Worlds.com Reddit, and what I saw was not great.
Look how they mess with my boy.
The servers are down, and no one knows when they'll be back up again. There's even a Worlds offline subreddit. That's devotion for you right there. Now, the good news is you can play it offline, but what that means is that you can't go to any custom worlds, which is pretty much the highlight of this game and where you can find all the depravity. It's been over a month and there's no official reason as to why it's been taken down either. But in the interest of science, I did play it offline quite a bit, and there was still some disturbing stuff to be found. So, you know, don't panic. I still have some footage to show you. So one of the first things to hit you is just how retro these graphics are. If anything, it reminds me of Duke Nukem 3D, if you're old enough to know what that is, and cool enough to know what that is.
Hail to the king, baby.
As you saw, I was a grey blob, so I need to change my avatar. Now, unfortunately, because the server is down, this ain't gonna happen. But I do get to see the types of avatars you can pick from. And I just want to point out, these are in the base game. These aren't custom ones. These are ones the developer thought would be appropriate. I think I've just shown my age here, but they remind me of like 90s rave music videos. You know, like the one that Jason Statham was in? But anyway, I digress. Now, one of the cool things about this game was that it was trying to create a metaverse that pretty much anyone could invest in. and it actually managed to draw in some big celebrities. So the first world we're going to visit is Bowie World. You know, David Bowie. The idea is simple. You and other David Bowie fans can meet up in this virtual world, talk about David Bowie, discuss his music, and there's also a virtual store which has band tees and other cool stuff which you can actually buy in real life. Watch as I click on this poster, and look, a web link opens to a merch store. It's like the year 3000 or something. But before I could exit through the gift store, I had to go through what I could only describe as a David Bowie induced acid trip. You've been warned. I assume this is supposed to be like the Church of Bowie or something. I'm not too sure what the devil creature thing is in reference to. I made my way down a corridor and it actually led me to an indoor stage. I assume that's what it's supposed to be. I can imagine it's 1995 and everyone's come to the Bowie concert on Wells.com, and there's no voice chat, so it's just a bunch of people typing out lyrics at the same time, maybe coordinating when to push play on the tape recorder at the exact same time. Man, what a time to be alive. I truly missed out. Take that, Travis Scott Fortnite concert. Nobody cares. We got Bowie. I then found a bunch of rooms which were themed after David Bowie throughout the years, and honestly, nothing in this was really disturbing. It just reminded me of a really bad MySpace fan page, if you know the sorts. But as much as I was loving Bowie Land by myself at like 11 o'clock at night, there was somewhere else I needed to be, and that was, of course,
it's Britney, bitch.
Okay. I swiftly went to a place called the Black Hill Forest, which I assume was supposed to be a horror chat room. But the initial first impressions is it's an American diner, which I'm sure is a horror to anyone with high cholesterol. There wasn't much to do inside the diner, so of course I went outside, which is where the horror bit started to kick in. Now, I'm sure this would be scary to most people, but they don't realise how much time I put in the Endless Forest, so this is child's play, really. And in case you haven't figured it out yet, the theme that they were going for on this world was the Blair Witch Project, so there you go. That's why it's supposed to be spooky and scary. However, if I wasn't scared by the Blair Witch Project, then I'm not going to be scared by the VR chat room designed around the same movie. Oh god, what's that noise? I think it's time to go to Hanson World. To clarify, Hanson the band, not Hanson the predator catcher. If I'm being completely honest, the vanilla game just isn't that disturbing. The most disturbing thing about it is probably all the big corporations and celebrities that bought into it. When we get down to brass tacks, the game just wasn't meant to be some sort of scary, creepy dystopia. It just accidentally comes across that way. And where the true infamous content actually comes from is the custom worlds that other players made. And even then, the truth was very much stretched as to what some of these worlds were all about. For instance, the world's mugshots was seen as a place where people's pictures were stolen and posted on the internet. But in actual fact, these pictures were submitted by the players themselves in a way to sort of have a profile picture and to show themselves off in the different galleries. And one of the biggest rumours to hit Wells.com was the existence of cults hiding within the custom worlds. Because, you know, if you're some satanic cult, of course you're going to hide out in a 1995 VR chat room. And what these rumours essentially boiled down to was that some users from 4chan and other like-minded sites would explore Wells.com, troll a little bit, and scare people a little bit. One of the most infamous ones being Nexalist, who's had several YouTube videos made about them, and I think anyone with a reasonable IQ can tell within minutes of the interactions that it's just some light-hearted trolling. However, the internet being the internet, people ran with the story, which is where most of the notoriety comes from. And if you still think this game has some sort of dark past to it, well, just think about this. It was released in 1995, It is now the year 2024. You don't make it that long if you have some sort of dodgy, shady, illegal activities going on. Especially when you consider what this thing actually runs on, which is a very basic form of Java. It's not exactly going to be hard to, go through the logs, the chat logs, and see what sort of dodgy stuff was going on. I'll guarantee you right now that more degeneracy has taken place in VR chat.
Oh, God.
I mean, come on, do you want this burnt thing served to you? I mean, here, taste this.
The only disturbing thing about this title is the amount of corporate entities who bought into it. So how disturbing is Worlds.com? I'm going to say inconclusive for now, and if the servers do come back up, I will come back to the game and continue my investigation, because right now the game is pretty tame, which can't be said for the next title on this list. Second Life is usually overlooked by the wider MMO community. It is indeed a social MMO, and it has over 68 million registered users. Launching back in 2003, it is by no means the oldest on the list, but it's certainly seen its fair share of players. What makes the game so unique is the ability to create your own avatars as well as player content, and essentially when it comes down to the gameplay, it's what I like to call a role player's wet dream. But despite all this, it's probably by far the most disturbing game on today's list. But before I tell you why, let's see if I can figure it out for myself by, playing the actual game. Now the good news is it is free to play and fairly simple to set up. So let's start with the first disturbing feature, which is of course the character creator. The first thing that Second Life does is that it lures you into a false sense of security. It makes you think this is the actual character creator and it looks something similar to The Sims. But this is just a placeholder until you get into the actual game. But anyway, I created my character, I then got some advertisement for a subscription, and then the game loaded. It's worth pointing out that the actual client seems to be web-based, but there was still a config file you had to install. As far as first impressions go, I did notice that my character didn't seem to be quite there. And there's also someone drowning in the water, I don't know if you caught that. But eventually, I did load in, and I looked glorious. The game starts with a tutorial, and it's basically signposts you read that tells you, the basic controls. And to my surprise, there were other players doing the same tutorial as me. And what can I say? So far, nothing to Okay, that's slightly disturbing. Now, you might be wondering, why is that disturbing? Well, the main reason is because this game has a lot of adult themes, which I'll get to a bit later. So to portray yourself as the baddest princess and be of a questionable look, height, and everything else, you know exactly where I'm going with this.
I'm getting the word nonce.
So yeah, only a couple minutes in, and I've already witnessed someone trying to roleplay as a small child. What is this, Black Desert Online? Now, part of the tutorial is actually the character creator screen, which is pretty complex. I'll be completely honest with you, I messed around with this character creator for quite some time, and even then, I still don't get my character to look the way I wanted it to. It's a very complex system, and that's a good thing in some sense, because it means you can look exactly how you want. Which is also a bad thing, because as we saw earlier, some people take it to the extreme. Interestingly enough though, you can buy outfits and costumes and all that jazz, and you can even morph yourself into other unhuman stuff. It's at this point, it's probably worth mentioning the first bit of controversy, which was that certain players were posing as much younger players using the character creator screen, and then charging other players to do certain acts to them, whilst their avatar was taken on a much younger look. I know this is the worst description ever of the events that took place, but this is YouTube and you have to play by their rules. It's actually quite rife throughout Second Life apparently, and it's known as something called age play. And the devs at Second Life have been accused on multiple occasions of not doing enough to combat it, but we'll get to that a bit later. But anyway, moving on swiftly, in the end I picked a preset character simply because I was just getting bored and frustrated with the actual character creator, and I just wanted to play the game. I did change the character model slightly, but not enough to call it my own. With the tutorial completed, I was ready to jump into the main game, and boy was it going to get interesting from here. I know I shouldn't judge, but there are some right weirdos in this game. I had made it to the central hub, which allows you to fast travel to different areas within the world of Second Life. There was romance, there was beaches, and apparently random naked ladies just appearing out of nowhere. I'm not against it, but obviously for YouTube reasons, this is me right now. As I was saying, there's plenty of worlds to choose from. There's even one dedicated to other like mini games and stuff. I think there's even like an FPS game that you can play. There was even a timetable as to like when certain events would be taking place. One in particular was for Star Trek, which even came with a holodeck, so it was like a simulation inside a simulation.
Of a simulation, inside a simulation, of a simulation, inside
The Matrix.
inside a
Taco inside a taco.
Inside a simulation. It was very strange. It was very meta. I'm not sure how big the world map is, but there's spots that you can go to just by traveling there. And then there's like certain destinations which are advertised or highlighted, or just well-known hangouts. There's a whole area dedicated to ERP, and you can even like buy mods or outfits, or I don't know, you can just buy dicks for your character. Obviously for the purpose of the YouTube video, I'm not going to show that, but you get the gist. There's a lot of adult themes in an adult area, although surprisingly it was very dead. I didn't find any other players here. It was deserted. I did try and find some unique places to go and visit, but honestly nothing really stood out, and Reddit wasn't that helpful. So I decided to check out some of the nightclubs because apparently it's got quite a big music scene, and even that was just weird. I mean, I was going to places where I was being greeted by people who honestly, it just felt like they were bots. It felt like very artificial as to what was going on. And that's pretty much where I stopped playing. I kind of had enough after a couple of hours of seeing over horny avatars on the internet just be overly horny, I guess. But look, it wasn't all terrible. I can respect the fact that a lot of thought and effort had gone into some of the world building. However, it just seemed that every world I went to, there was some random big-titted avatar just stood around waiting.
You want to make my cock explode now? Sorry, intercourse?
So how disturbing is Second Life, you might be wondering? As a gaming concept, I think it was ahead of its time. The idea of having a fully customizable avatar, which you can then put into social situations, I mean, who's not going to like that? It's a cool idea. But unfortunately, there aren't restrictions as to what you could do with your avatar. The fact that age play is so prevalent in this game, and it's only this year they've started to clamp down on it, is kind of worrying. In fact, it's just downright disturbing. And I think this goes beyond it just being a little bit of harmless fun, a bit of like a kink, and it's just wrong and concerning. And I'll be honest with you, I felt a bit on edge playing this game because I kept getting DMs with links to random websites, and these were websites outside of the game, so God knows where they would take you to. I mean, what even was this firewall prompt? Overall, it was just a very uncomfortable experience, and I'm not trying to be prudish here, but when people just seem to be 24/7 horny or bots or just fucking spam or viruses, I don't know, man. I just didn't want to play it. I think there'd be less risk in using LimeWire to download the entirety of Netflix. I generally feel like I'm on some FBI watch list now just for downloading and playing this game. And I'm telling you now, the fact that the stuff around the PDF files has only just come to light makes me wonder what other dark secrets it's actually hiding. So yeah, overall, very disturbing experience. I'll give it out a 5 out of 5 on the disturbed list. Only play this game if you feel lonely at night and you want the FBI to be watching you. Now, believe it or not, there are a lot more games I wanted to add to this list, but it's a 30-minute long video and I'm not even sure who's going to watch this. So if you want to see part 2 of this video, get it to 1,069 likes and I'll go review some even more disturbing games than what you've just witnessed. And on that bombshell, I'm going to end the video there. Just a friendly reminder that all these games will be featured on my website, so feel free to check that out. And obviously, if you want to see more content from myself, go subscribe. What's stopping you? Might as well if you got to this part of the video. But anyway, that's enough from me. Shout out to my YouTube and Patreon members. You guys make life worth living. And I'll leave a couple of videos on the screen for you now, which you might enjoy. Bye-bye for now.